good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Veterans Minimum. I'm your host, Nick Dais. Not to be confused with the UFC fighter, Nick Diaz. As my guest today, Ode Osbourne, was confused when he pulled up. He's like, yo, how do you say your last name, man? Is that a typo? Like, I get that all the time, so I'm not offended at all.
I had to double take. Like, when I saw Nick and I saw D-A-I-S, instantly I thought Nick Diaz. And I was like, no, that doesn't say, that's not, I was like, because I was going to be like, yo, you got the same last name as Nick Diaz. Like, that's dope. But it wasn't.
Yeah. I told John, shouts to John Orlando. He was on the show for the Makachev card with Charles, and we were talking about UFC because I got a big passion for the UFC, man. It's become like my favorite sport. You're a fighter too in the UFC. And I told him, I was like, dude, if I'm ever on your show, I feel like your audience is going to get a little taken back because at first they're going to see Nick Diaz. They're going to be like, oh, shit, it's the fighter, John, not the fighter.
Yep.
And then they're going to see my mug, and they're going to be like so disappointed in it not being me.
But they're not, though, because your personality is like 20 times better than Nick Diaz's personality. So all you got to do is just show up, pretend to be Nick Diaz, show up and just tell some jokes. You know, but you got to do super, super New York accents because people love the New York accents.
Yeah, I've been getting that a lot, bro, ever since I came out. You're from there too, right?
Yep. I can't really originally claim it, though, because I only lived there from the age of 9. So I immigrated there from Jamaica. Everybody from Jamaica goes to New York first. There's way more Jamaicans, I swear to you, way more Jamaicans in New York than there are in Jamaica.
Really?
I feel like it. I feel like, especially in Queens, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Yeah, you know all the Jamaicans?
Yep,
exactly. The Jamaican stores, everything Jamaica is in Queens.
Yeah, man, it's the best. Like I always say, Queens is the most diverse place in the world.
Yeah.
You walk down one boulevard, Ditmars Boulevard is where I grew up, and you'll see like in a 2-block radius, you'll get 25 different cultures and cuisines. Like you'll get Jamaican, Korean, Indian, Greek, Italian, French, like all in the same block. And you're like, yo, what the hell? This is what makes it so dope.
No, for real.
But man, we got connected over the weekend. We were watching the fights together, and it was great because you had a line while you were watching the fights. You're like breaking it down and you're talking to everyone and you're saying, yo, he got to do this. You know, he got to watch out for the left hook. He feints a lot, and the guy's like, he baits him in. And then at one point you turn around and you're like, yo, my bad. I'm being that guy at every UFC party, every MMA card. There's always that one guy who just sometimes they know, but it's like annoying.
Yeah.
And you're like, yo, I hate being that guy. And then I was just like, yo, bro, if anyone's gonna be yapping throughout a card, coming from an actual fighter that's been there, I give you a little bit of slack.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like, I don't ever tell people I fight for the UFC if I'm watching fights around a lot of people. One, sometimes I want to watch the fights myself, and two, you always get that one guy in the venue that talks during the whole fight like they know everything, and in the back of my head I'm like, you have no idea. There's like, because there's so much levels, to fighting, and I never want to be that annoying guy whenever the fights are going on, just talking about the fights and like breaking it down and like, my ego showing. And so I always try to let people watch the fights, but sometimes, it just comes out because I'm like, because there's such a level to a simple jab, right? There's such a level to a simple jab that I know when somebody has a really good jab and another person hasn't been practicing their jab enough. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I'll be like, ooh, they need to work their jab more. It's just there's such levels to just a simple jab that the naked eye doesn't see. Like on the recoil, you know what I'm saying? If the hand comes back in right here, their jab is crispy. If they just comes out from here to here and it's like without them moving their body as much, that jab is crispy. But it's the guy that jabs and comes down and then brings his hands up that hasn't been working the jab a lot. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that, I look for when I watch fighting. I'm like, okay, where's his hand coming? So pay attention. Next time you watch fights and somebody throws a jab, pay attention to where his hands go right after. So that's another good tell.
Nah, that's dope, man, because you also had said something when someone's fighting, like how you never want to see your fighter throwing punches and they're like tensed up, like, oh. You want it like, and you were just demonstrating it over there, and I was like, yo, that shit was fire, the way you explained it.
Yes, the word that I was using was cerebral.
Ooh, okay.
So you want to be as cerebral as possible when you're in the cage.
How does that? Do you train that,
You have to,
or is
you
it
have
just
to.
something that you got?
Some people have that naturally gifted. Like I believe Michael Jordan was that person that was just he was born with it and he trained it.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather, he's that person. You know what I'm saying? He's so cerebral. I think it was Dewey Cooper. He said, you've seen Floyd in different situations where he's been hit or he's been hurt, but you never see him break. You've never seen Floyd break. You never see him get out of position where he's like tensed up and angry. He's always composed and disciplined. Because, like I said, in a fighting situation, the person who is the most, the person who tries to hit the hardest usually is probably the person that's going to get tired faster, right? The key to fighting is that you have to be able to hit very hard, very fast, while not trying to do that at the same time. And you have no idea how hard that is because the other person is trying to kick your fucking head off. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here.
You are, yeah. I got the little E next to the logo. You're good,
Okay.
man. Let it fly.
So yeah, the other person is trying to kick your head off. So it's hard to be calm while you're in there. But if you can get into that flow state where you're just calm as a cucumber, man, you can really, really let it go and become a better version of yourself. Versus the person like Kevin Holland. The difference was he was so stiff, throwing his punches. And Wonder Boy was a step ahead of him every time because he saw everything. He wasn't even close. Kevin wasn't even close because Wonder Boy would know you're gonna go. Okay, there it is. Yep, there it is. You're gonna go.
And you said something that was it blew my mind when it happened because you said how the first round was gonna play out, and then you said the longer the fight goes, you're just gonna see Wonder Boy eat him up, and that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
What was so fascinating to me was hearing you say that and then it playing out because you said Wonder Boy or a fighter like Wonder Boy, they have their technique and they have their
System.
Yeah, I was going to say game plan, but system. And it's like, I'm going to stay true to it. Where Holland was a little more wild. And you even said the only way he could beat him would be to try to catch him with those wild tendencies.
Yep.
And then to see that play out, dude, was insane to me because, again, that's why I like having your perspective because you've done that. And also I had the honor of having Eric Nixick on my show. And Izzy's my favorite fighter.
Yeah.
And I've watched all of Izzy's fights from the first time that he debuted in the UFC up until his last one. And he broke down Adesanya in 2 minutes. And after that, I was like, bro, I just learned more about him in 2 minutes than I have I don't know how many fights he's had in the UFC. And then hearing you explain Wonder Boy and Holland was like, damn, son, that shit is crazy.
Yes, but same concept with Izzy. The difference that what separates Izzy from everybody else is that they have a system. Dan Hooker, you saw how he won that last fight?
Yeah.
That wasn't just him fighting that guy and being lucky. That was a system. You know what I'm saying? Wonder Boy, he's got a striking system that he uses. You know what I'm saying? The difference between his striking abilities and Holland's striking abilities is I would say Holland is actually the more gifted fighter. He's more athletic. He's probably stronger. You know what I mean? So on paper, Holland beats him, right?
Yeah.
But Holland just came up, he came to fight. He didn't come to be a martial artist. You have to be both. You can't just be a martial artist and you can't just be a fighter. You got to combine, you know what I'm saying? You got to have that grit when you need to have the grit, and you have to have the flow when you need to have the flow. Now, Wonder Boy was a martial artist that whole fight. He stayed composed and he stuck to his system. Shoot in with the jab, back off. Let Kevin Holland swing wild. Shoot in with the 1-2, back off. Let Kevin Holland swing wild. Fake the 1-2, throw a head kick, stuff like that. He had a system and he kept that system going. It was like Chinese water torture, man. Just drip, 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 and then Kevin just broke. But Kevin, man, I was disappointed though. I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed. Here's why I was disappointed. Kevin Holland got up when he had Wonder Boy down. You wanna win a fight. I get it. You want to make the fight entertaining, but that told me one thing: you're not serious enough about your job. You're from now on, you are an entertainer. I can't even call you a fighter anymore. You're an entertainer, which is fine. You know what I'm saying?
You kept saying that on Saturday too. Not so much about Holland, but just in general that there's fighters and there's entertainers.
Yep. Yeah, they're 100%. There's fighters and then there's entertainers. So Kevin Holland is an entertainer. You know what I mean? He could go into the gym and drill 1,000 jabs and 1,000 cross, but I doubt he's gonna do that. You know what I mean? I could be wrong. He could. I know he boxes a lot. He's got good hands. He has great hands. You know what I mean? But the difference is Wonder Boy's in the gym drilling 1,000,000 jabs, 1,000,000 cross, 1,000,000 kicks. You know, he is through and through a martial artist, and that's the difference between being a martial artist and being a fighter. You're a fighter. You're tough. You have a tough mindset, and you could fight through certain adversities. Now, being a martial artist is being able to take the onslaught and being calm, and then dishing out the onslaught and being calm. Now, when you can combine adversity and calm, you have the calm aggression effect. You know what I mean? Certain people like Izzy, they have that. You know, he can be calm and aggressive at the same time. Then there's people like you got your what's his name? He went to bare knuckle boxing. Mike Perry, who
Definitely not calm.
no, he's a fighter.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
But you put a little bit of calm in him, and he's phenomenal. But that's why he is a killer at bare knuckle. There's some fighters that should just be in bare knuckle, and that's the one. Mike Perry belongs in bare knuckle.
Yeah, and he's had some success already.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any truth to fighting in front of a crowd and then not fighting in front of a crowd, like being in the Apex and then being out in front of fans? Because that Orlando card and then this one this weekend in Vegas, like it's going to be in front of 18,000 people as opposed to being in the Apex. And you were telling the story about hearing "Ode, Ode," like
Oh yeah, man. Sometimes
that adrenaline dump, right?
Yes, you never want that adrenaline dump. And I made that mistake my last fight, you know, because I walk out and the crowd's like, "Ode, Ode, Ode, Ode." And when I tell you getting drunk off of the crowd is a real thing, every fighter can relate. Maybe not every fighter. I can't see Khabib, you know, letting his emotions get the better of him, but a lot of fighters can relate.
A fair percentage of fighters,
can relate to getting drunk off the crowd where, you know what I'm saying, you come out and the crowd's hyping you up and you literally feel like, you know, as soon as I hit this guy, he's just going to turn into smithereens. Like he gonna turn to dust. I'm going to hit him one time and he's just going boom. And the fight's going to be over and you walk off like Denzel Washington in Training Day. You know, that's what getting drunk off the crowd is like, because that energy that comes in is amazing. Now, when you're at the Apex, you know, I think a lot of fighters rely on that too much because during COVID, the crowd isn't there and you're like, oh, it's a weird feeling. But for me, honestly, it's all about who you are. I got distracted that fight, but typically the crowd doesn't really faze me if there's a crowd or if there's not a crowd because I'm me. I try to dial into the word again I'm going to use is that cerebral mindset where I don't, you know, where I can get into my flow states. So I try not to let the crowd distract me.
Which one do you prefer? No fans or fans?
Oh man, I would say it's a bittersweet. So there's a positive and a negative for both, and I'll tell you what it is. So with the crowd, you do have that, you know, the fans being there, and it's like a super hype card. And you get the momentum from the crowd, and it's just the energy is just amazing.
Well, I wanna add more to that too in a way because I feel like ever since COVID happened, even these fight night cards in like Columbus, Orlando, Long Island that they had over the summer. Yeah, it's not a pay-per-view, but it feels like it because we didn't have fans there. So watching an Apex card, bro, and then watching like a random card in Austin, Texas, you're like, holy shit, this is wild. It's a pay-per-view, basically.
Right. No, 100%. And that's like, that Orlando card was damn near one of the best cards of the year. I would have never thought.
Yeah.
I would have never thought. For real. That card was damn near one of the best cards of the year. I was like, wow. You know, but yeah, man, when the fans are there, the energy is right. Hey, man, you go out there and you feel like you are Superman. Now, the downside is when your coach is talking to you, sometimes it gets difficult to hear, you know, so you really have to zone into your coach's voice and stuff like that. So sometimes if you're, you know, in the fire, it gets a little difficult with the crowd yelling, you know. Sometimes you hear somebody telling somebody else to rip their nipple off. And
Dick twist, right?
Yeah,
that was
right.
another one that went viral.
Yeah, rip his dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, so how does it feel to like knock someone out? Because you've gotten a finish in the UFC.
I've gotten two.
Damn, I just disrespected you.
No.
Don't make me feel it.
It's not even that. Honestly though, go ahead.
What could that be? What could you equate that to in any other sport? I feel like there isn't, bro.
Nah.
Because that's literally mano y mano.
Yeah, but again, it depends on who you are, right? When I'm using the word cerebral, meaning I'm fighting at like a higher elevation, right? My thoughts, my senses, everything is super heightened and elevated. When I'm there, no one can fuck with me. Nobody. I don't care who you are. You're not beating me, you know? So when I get a knockout in that mindset, in that frame of mind, for whatever reason, I don't get like amped up. I'm so calm. Like I just go over and I just kneel. And like I'm like, it's like coming down. I'm coming down because you're literally. It's like, I know it sounds bad. Walking out and you're in a gunfight with somebody. You shoot somebody in the face. You're in a gunfight with someone. You shoot someone in the face, and then after you get done shooting someone in the face, you go do an interview.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's hard for me to come back out of that mindset sometimes. So I'm very calm. So after I get like a knockout, that feeling is like, okay, I got my job done. Now 30 minutes later, I'm like, man, that was so awesome. That was so good. That was dope.
You allow yourself to sort of understand and elaborate what you just did.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, are you a football fan by any chance? Like, do you follow?
I used to. I played football and everything. So the only time I tried to follow was when one of my good high school friends and teammates, Jacoby Brissett, he plays for the Browns. He's the quarterback for the
dope.
Browns. Yeah. When he plays, I'll watch, but I don't watch too much anymore because there's just too much. Watching fighting has just made me realize one thing. There's way too much that goes on in football. Like, just get after it. Let them play football, man. Like, in fighting, you put two dudes in a cage. You put two guys in a cage, and we're trying to get after it. That's it. Ain't nobody, throwing a flag. There's no whistles. You know what I'm saying? You might get an eye poke or a nut shot every once in a while, but come on, man. Let them get after it. It's a football game.
The reason why I even mentioned that about football is because even if you weren't watching like that, you've definitely seen the clip of that dude, Richard Sherman, when he used to play for the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah.
Where he makes the greatest play of his career, and then immediately they put a microphone in front of his face. And it's like, Richard, how do you feel? He's like, I'm the best corner in the game. It's like, he got a lot of heat for that.
This is crazy.
How they were calling him, they're like, how dare he? They called him a thug. They called him all this shit. And it's like, bro, this guy just made the biggest play of his career.
Yep.
And he's still on the field in uniform, and they put a mic in front of his face. It's like, yo, he gave you a natural reaction. And to bring it back full circle,
casuals
is what you said, though, about how, yo, I just knocked someone out, and then you're being interviewed.
Man.
Still in the cage with your gloves on, sweating.
Yeah, it's like, so it's interesting to see, for me, it's interesting to see the people like, the Kevin Hollands who get on the mic and they're like, and they go, that shows me like, yeah, he's just a fighter. There's a deeper frame of mind that Kevin Holland can possess, but in my mind, in my head, after he got up and didn't take Wonder Boy down, he's just a fighter. He's not a martial artist, a student of the game, in my opinion. Because of that, I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? We're here to win. What are we doing here? So yeah, man.
How do you feel about this card coming up in Vegas this weekend, this pay-per-view? And what I mean by that is, what goes into a fighter's mindset when things kind of get shuffled around? Like, guys are pulling out of fights. Cards are now, the last time we were in Vegas for a card, you had the whole Nate Diaz Chimaev thing go down, and people aren't sure if they're going to fight, or guys making weight, whatever it might be. So how do you feel about, two-parter question, how do you feel about this 282 card? Mm-hmm. We both have a little bit of an interest because we have friends that are fighting on this card.
Yes.
But also, like, the main event got turned around. It was supposed to be Glover and Yuri. Now it's Jan and Ankalaev. Like, how you feel about all this?
Again, I always say things depend on who the person is, right? Me, I'm not gonna break. I may get distracted, but it's not gonna break me. I've had fights where I've gotten to the airport on fight week to go to Las Vegas to fight, and my opponent pulls out. I was actually supposed to fight Denise Bondar, who I'm fighting next. That was actually pretty funny. So I was supposed to fight him like 5 fights ago. He pulls out. They're like, "Hey man, we can't get him, out of Russia because he was doing COVID. Do you want to go up at 45?" And this was supposed to be at 125. Like, "Do you want to go up at 45 and fight Jerome Rivera?" A week leading up to the fight, in my head, I'm like, well, you know what? I'm a fighter. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So I move up to 45, fought Jerome Rivera, got an 18-second knockout. Then it was great. But some fighters can get distracted when there's a lot of shifts. You know what I'm saying? Because they picture their moment too much. They're like, in their head, their moment has to go a certain way where they get this certain knockout and they get their hand raised and they say the line, and it's too script. It's way too scripted. You can't be like that. You can't be so scripted all the time. Those are the same guys that when they fight in the cage and their game plan doesn't go their certain way, they break. You know what I mean? You can't be so scripted. You have to have your game plan or your moment, but you have to be prepared for changes because this game is not perfect. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, this fight coming up, I'm hoping there's the Jay Perrin and Raul Rosas is a great fight.
I think that fight's kind of being slept on a little bit. It's not getting as much love because the storylines to it are fascinating. Because I train over at Syndicate. I've seen Jay in there a bunch of times. He calls me Grand Theft Auto shorts because I got these Grand Theft Auto shorts. So he'll always be like, "Yo, I fuck with them shorts." But Raul Rosas, young buck, 18 years old.
Yep.
And I didn't know this until you mentioned it. There's a backstory behind this too.
Oh yeah.
You guys all used to train together.
Oh yeah. We all were at Syndicate training together.
Is it foul if like us two trained and then I leave the gym for whatever, whatever shit happens? I leave the gym and then I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go fight Ode now. Is there like an unwritten rule, etiquette?
So there is what's called gym etiquette. Yes. And remind me to bring up Chris Curtis and Joaquin Buckley in a second.
Yeah.
So there is a thing called gym etiquette where, typically if you leave a gym, it's sportsmanship. You don't go and try to fight the guy that you used to train with from the same gym. You know what I'm saying? But I understand that it's the business, you know what I mean? And this is a business sport that guys will do that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's not something that I would do just because out of respect and honor, you don't really do that. And we were at Syndicate. I was there with Jay and Raul. Raul also super cool guy. I know right now he's got a lot of hype and his confidence is high. Personally, Raul's a really, really nice guy. His parents are really, really cool. His dad and his mom, they're like his biggest supporters. His dad is one of his coaches. He's there with him. His mom and his dad are there with him every single day at the gym. Every single day. That is so important for a young fighter to have. So important.
And this is like the youngest fighter ever to be in the UFC.
Yes. I never had, my mom and my dad at, the gym where I was at. Obviously for reasons like my mom had to work and stuff and provide and all that stuff. But he's fortunate enough to have both his parents there. His dad's recording every practice, taking notes for him and helping him. And, it's good. It's a good foundation to have. So he's a young Thundercat, but I love Raul, but, Jay's my roommate. And I do think Jay's more experienced. I do think Jay's the tougher fighter. So I'm swinging towards Jason Perrin here on this one because of the it's just the matchup. Raul is good at what he does, but Jay's not the kind of fighter typically that just accepts the ground and plays jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying? like when Raul fought whoever he fought last
On the Contender, yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to like show his jiu-jitsu level and his ego, you know what I'm saying? Which caused him to lose the fight because he could have just got up and fight him, you know. I don't think Jay's gonna play that game where he, you know what I mean, wants to go jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu. I think Jay's probably gonna try to get back up if he gets taken down.
Yeah,
but
in my notes for this fight, because I know you're not allowed to, but I'm not a fighter in the UFC, and I do like to, you know, degen a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
to my betting.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll talk about betting. People are like highly suggesting fighters to stay away from the topic from betting. I'm like, fuck that. You know why I say that? Because I'm not out here betting.
Right.
So
yeah.
I can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care. Like what? Oh, like you ain't seen me betting on fights. So
yeah. With Perrin, I think he's had the tougher road. Also, like he fought Batista. He's a beast at 135.
Beast, man.
And I look at that. Do you look at that with fighters? Like,
oh yeah.
Your
most definitely.
like
you have
strength
to.
of resume.
You have
strength
to.
of schedule.
You have to. Even Arichi Lang. Arichi Lang is slept on. He's actually he didn't have a good start, but that guy is good.
Yeah.
Arichi Lang is really good. Like he is polished, and he didn't have a good start. But he's good.
Yeah, I bet Jay early on, like when the lines first came out for that, because I'm looking at it like, yo, he's fought the better competition.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rosas still like, bro, there's levels to this, right? You're 18, like. And unless you're this like wonder kid and you really are everything that we're hyping you up to be, by all means, fine. I'll learn the hard way by losing my money. But for the most part, I think the size should be. I think the line is mispriced. I think Jay should be the favorite.
Yeah, for sure. I think Rosas someday will be a problem.
Yeah.
I think, yes, he will be a problem. In probably about 3 years, he will be a problem. Right now, I don't think he is that problem. I'm not saying he's not good and he doesn't belong. He's really good and he does belong.
Yeah.
I 100% think that he belongs. And if you build him right, he will be, I think he could be a UFC champion someday. There's just certain things, attributes that hasn't grown in yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's still a kid. So his man strength hasn't developed yet. So he's gonna be fighting, you know, guys that have that strength. Not right now because they are going to build him right. I'm talking about later on. But people usually possess this sort of aura about them. I don't know how to explain it. So the dude that fought on Contender Series on the same card as Rosas, actually, what was his name? Oh my gosh. Wrestler guy. He just got into the UFC game.
Not sure.
They put two guys in the new UFC game.
Joe Pfeiffer?
No, Raul Rosas
Uh-huh.
and the other new guy off of Contender Series, the one that with all the hype on his name.
I'm blanking right now.
He's got all the hype on his name.
I didn't really watch the Contender like that. I did watch the Rosas thing, so I should have been able to see that.
Yeah, they actually wanted him to fight Khamzat, but something happened. But yeah.
Oh, dude. Bo Nickel. Yeah, I didn't even get to type it out. When you said the Hamza thing, that's what rang the bell.
Yeah, so I think the difference is some people, when they get into the UFC,
we can't get crazy too, man. Like I think like there should be a like climbing the ladder kind of thing.
Yes.
Because also you could put that's why you see like a lot of boxers,
Yes.
they'll show up and they're like 22-0. You're like, yo, how? I just hear about him now, but it's like you're being worked in. Unless there's a backstory like Pereira and Izzy.
Yeah,
where he
man.
only gets that title shot because of that kickboxing
100%.
background going all the way back.
100%. But go ahead.
No, I was going to mention something else, but you could finish it.
No, I was going to say, when you look at Bo Nickel and you're around him, he has a certain aura about him that is just, it's uncanny. You know what I'm saying? It's like his energy, you can feel that confidence that's just kind of, it's just there. He doesn't have to really bravado around to let people know that he's that good. Striking, I don't know. His wrestling, like I said, you can tell it's there. His mentality is incredible. If you ever get a chance to meet him, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Just by talking to him, you can feel it. It's a certain feeling. Whereas, Rosas still has a lot of distractions. You can kind of see, I'm not saying he's distracted. I'm saying he has distractions in his life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not saying he's distracted, saying he has distractions because he's so young.
Yeah.
He's getting, there's going to be girls, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. So that's the only thing that is in his way. And if he can get past those distractions and keep on the same path that he's going to go up, man. He's going to do some really good things.
Now, what about a fight like Paddy Pimblett and Jared Gordon? Everyone knows my backstory with Jared. That's one of my good friends. We grew up together in the same town. And he actually came on veterans minimum before he signed with the UFC. This is a super throwback, like the OGs of the show.
Oh, yeah.
This is when he was at CFFC. And he had told us, like, we all pulled up to his fight at the Borgata. He was fighting for CFFC. He had told us, he's like, man, Matt Serra and Dana White are going to be at the fight. They were doing the Dana White looking for a fight kind of thing back then. And ever since then, bro, like I was always a UFC fan, but once like Jared got in, we're like, all right, now we got skin in the game, and we'll tell him like, yo, this guy coming up, you might be fighting him, and we'll send them like advice and shit. He'd be like, yo, I appreciate what you guys are doing, but like I got coaches for this also, like trolling us too. But dude,
man.
This is a fight, Paddy Pimblett. If you look at the marquee, it's Ankalaev and Blachowicz for the title. And then the line underneath says Paddy Pimblett's pay-per-view debut. Not against Jared Gordon. Like, yo, you're not even showing love to our boy.
Yeah, man.
And look, this has been going on for a year because even before Paddy came into the UFC, he had mentioned Jared as like a fight that he wanted to showcase himself. And it's one of those things where like they've been going back and forth respectfully.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be I mean, everyone knows what side I'm on.
Yeah.
But like as a neutral, I think it goes back to the convo we were having before about those guys that come out so explosive early on and they're dangerous. And then as the rounds go on, they become weaker.
Yes.
That's kind of how I feel this fight.
It can go that way. It's going to be interesting because I used to train with Jared at Rufus Sports, and Jared is a damn good fighter. And to the casuals, they think that Paddy's just going to run through him. I might be a little biased because I have trained with him, but I've seen what he can do and his ability. So he is a threat. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going with Jared once again because I think I'm biased and I have emotional skin in the game. But I think he'll surprise a lot of people. I really do. Jared's a tough SOB. Paddy, though, I will say one good thing about Paddy, man, when he gets in the cage, he's dialed in. Mentally,
he locks in. Yeah. You could tell it's like the switch. Like he has his fun because, yo, I can't front. His walkout is pretty popping.
Yeah, man.
Like he gets the whole crowd into it.
He kills it.
You know, like I'm gonna be a little conflicted when Paddy's coming out. I'm gonna be vibing. I'm like, nah. We need this guy to get murked,
man.
You know?
And not just that, too. He's actually like a really great guy. I've actually met him and had a conversation with him. He's a really nice guy. Really nice guy. Another guy that's on the card that I really enjoy. He's one of my favorite people. Not just in the fighting world, but more so personally. Darren Till. When I first came out to Las Vegas about a year ago, I was like, oh man, I'm not sure about if I'm going to like Vegas, how it's going to be for me. I'm nervous, I got to leave, blah, blah, blah. And I moved out here, during COVID. So we weren't at the Apex. We were at the building across the street from, I'm sorry. We were at the Apex, not the PI. Okay. We were at the Apex at the time doing strength and conditioning. Now strength and conditioning is back at the Performance Institute. But before it was at the Apex. And so, I used to do my sessions at the same time Darren would do his sessions when I first moved here. And I've knew of Darren since, I was training with Tyron Woodley at Rufus Sport, and Woodley was going to fight Darren. Yeah. I've always been a huge fan of just the way that he talks. And, he's not talking shit. He truly believes the things that he said and that he says. And I've always been a huge fan of that. And, he just came over to me one day and we just started talking and we started talking about music and all kinds of shit, man. And He's actually very, very mature for his age. I thought he was much older. I'd forgotten that he was so young.
Nah, I think he got his title shot at like 26.
Yeah, he did.
27.
Yeah,
Like,
he
yeah,
did.
he was a young buck.
Very mature though, man.
Yeah.
So we hit it off, and man, we've just been cool. Good. He's a really good mate, man. He's a good lad, bro. We've been cool for since I met him, and today I saw him for the first time in a long time because he was here actually for like a couple months rehabbing his injury.
Yeah.
And he left, went back to the UK. And when I saw him today for the first time in the locker room, I was like, oh, what up, bro? Oh, yo. It was cool, man. It was cool. Except, he was naked and I was just like, oh, I'm okay, giving you a hug right now when your dick is out. All right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he has an interesting fight this weekend too, man, because it's been a little bit of a layoff for him as well. I think his last fight, he's had the issues where he got hurt and then guys dropped out of fights, which is always like so annoying. And I get it, man, from the fighter's perspective. I feel like you guys take those fights because you've spent your money on your camp, you've spent your time preparing, and there's no payoff unless you hit weight and then you get into the case. So
I know.
Before we get to like the main event, I did want to ask you about what's the thought process between you're preparing for your fight, us two are supposed to fight 2 months from now, and then 3 weeks out, 2.5 weeks out, I hurt my ankle, I got to pull out the fight, but you've just committed 5.5 weeks of training. Do you want another opponent? Is it opponent depending? Like, this guy's a little suspect. I should be able to take him anyway. Like, what's the thought process of that? Because we've had a lot of fights on this card play out that way, where guys have been in these camps. Ponzinibbio, he's fighting Alex Morono, who also, is there a win-win situation for a guy like Morono?
I mean, it all depends if you were already, so me personally, I like to have a certain system, you know what I mean? And if I have hit all of my marks, my style should work against anybody.
So it don't matter if I'm a wrestler or you're.
That's the only thing that I would say is different. If I was fighting predominantly a striker and I did a striking camp, then I would say, let me go and have a wrestling camp. You know what I'm saying? Because it's different muscles, man.
And it makes sense.
It does. It doesn't matter what your knowledge is or how much shape, how good you are, or how much you are in shape. If you're fighting a wrestler and you've been doing striking this whole time, those finite details and everything is not going to be there. You're not going to be as sharp. You want to be like boom. You know what I'm saying? You want to have those muscles like sharpened. You can't go into a fight with dull wrestling muscles, man. That's how you get, you know what I'm saying, smothered and covered like Waffle House.
What do you got in the main event? We got Blachowicz and Ankalaev, two guys who, to me, I feel like Ankalaev, since I first saw him, was like the uncrowned champ of 205. Like, I felt like it was only a matter of time before he got the belt. There's a couple of people that I felt that way about. He was one of them. Makachev was another one. Adesanya, up until he got his belt, it's like, yo, once he gets it, it's gonna take something really special.
Yep.
And Usman too. Like, I felt like Usman, no one could beat Usman. I felt like at 170, unless he got caught, like he did. True. Right?
I don't feel that way with Pereira though.
Nah. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's weird, right? Like, he's so dominant, but I don't feel that way because he, in his Swiss Army knife, in his Swiss Army set, he's missing the scissor in his Swiss Army set. You know what the scissor is?
What?
Wrestling.
Yeah.
And so it's different, right? Because here's why. If he had done wrestling in high school or even middle school, I would have been like, well, you know what? Well, at least he's got the bases down. So all they gotta do is just brush up on his bases or whatever. If you wrestled in high school, then I'm like, okay. If you wrestled 4 years, you still got your bases. You just gotta brush up. You just are rusty. But he doesn't. They have to teach him certain things to do, and then they have to practice what they teach him. It's a different thing, man. It's so different. So in my opinion, if you were to fight Khamzat, it would just be mauled. Khamzat would completely. People are like, oh yeah, but the weight. Oh man, Kamzat would maul him
Yeah.
on the ground. Like when you watch his fight versus Izzy, it was like Izzy wasn't even like holding him down with anything. There's nothing. He wasn't holding him down with nothing. Kamzat would maul him. Now they put him up against strikers. Then yeah, he'll be champ. He'll be champ for, you know what I mean, for a duration of the time.
Styles makes fights, right?
Yes,
They say?
yes. But
Yeah.
Kamzat's not the one. I wouldn't be looking to fight Kamzat if I was him.
You happy you don't got to worry about that, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Nah, man. I wrestled in high school and in college, so all I gotta do is sharpen my blades. You know
No,
what
but
I'm
I'm
saying?
saying like the weight difference.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no. I'm definitely lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel you. I like the honesty there.
yeah.
I got Ankalaev winning this fight, though, man. I feel like it was only a matter of time before he got his chance at it. Jan, I think, is his first fight in a while. Also, he's getting up there in age, though it doesn't really matter as much for the heavier guys.
Yeah.
As you move up, it seems like we saw DC have success. Stipe was pretty old, also. And even now, Glover, who was the champ prior to all this stuff going down. I think Ankalaev is the guy who he has like a complete game, I feel like, when I watch him. I think he could wrestle. I think he could strike also. And Jan, we know about the Polish power, but for the most part, I think it could be neutralized. And the fighters also, like, you know, when you're fighting a guy who has knockout power, right? Like, you know that.
Yeah. It's hard for me to, because both those guys have so much power. I don't really know who's going to win that fight, you know, because when you are good at what you do at that weight, it's hard for me, like, pick one, because it's different where you have, you know, a bantamweight. You got two guys who are knockout artists. That fight could still go the distance. You know what I'm saying? But it's hard because in this fight, it's pretty much whoever connects first, like with the hard shot, is going down, in my opinion. I think whoever can connect first with that cross is putting the other person down.
Yeah, I could definitely see it, man. It's always like so tense with them when them big guys start swinging like that, because it's weird, because like
hook,
yeah, like the bigger weight classes, it seems like it's that one hit and it's so kind of telegraphed, but it still can't be seen.
I know what you mean.
Where like your weight class, 125, 135ers, you guys are like throwing like so quick. And then it's, I don't know, it's so weird, but it's fascinating, man. I love it.
It's because force equals speed times mass, right? So when you have a mass that's bigger, like Francis or Stipe, you know what I'm saying? Especially look at the size of Francis's arms. You know, it's gonna take a lot of force to move his body from point A to point B in a split amount of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus a smaller guy like myself. You know, I can move through the air like a bee. You know, just because I'm not as big, so I don't have that much mass to carry. You know, and even in boxing, you know, the heavyweight boxers they look fast because that's their craft. That's what they've been doing their whole life. But if you compare a heavyweight boxer to a boxer, you know, that's at 35, shit, it's not even a comparison. You know what I'm saying? It's like a drop of water versus like a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, man, this was fun. I appreciate you pulling up. I would definitely love to continue more, have you on another time, and we could chop it up, maybe hear more about your backstory, because this is more of like a vibe too when I have this show. I like really, I'm fascinated by how people think and like how they're wired. And I have the utmost respect for people like you that actually fight. Like at any level, whether it's amateur or to the UFC, for you to go get locked into a cage. Like, I think people like to throw the word savage around because they do some deadlifts. Yeah, man. But it's like, nah, man, you guys are real savages. And I tip my cap to guys like you, and I appreciate your time coming on. The floor is yours, dude. Plug where people could find you and all the stuff that you got going on.
No, man, if you guys want to check out my podcast, I just released a new podcast. It's called Wagwan with Ode Osbourne. And Wagwan, I'm Jamaican, so Wagwan means what's going on. You know, so my podcast has awesome guests, you know, Claudia Gadelia, Jamal Hill, Joaquin Buckley. I've had Chris Curtis. I've had Jay Perrin. I've had Montel Jackson. Who else have I had on there? Cheyenne Vlismus. I've had Casey O'Neill. You know, the list goes on. So it's just like, actually, it's a vibe kind of like this. So you guys check that out. Also, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Ode Osbourne. that's pretty much about it, man. I appreciate you have me on this place, man. I just want to, at the end of the day, be able to use my gifts to inspire someone who is watching me that feels that, you know what I'm saying? Because fighting saved my life. You know what I mean? Fighting saved my life. It was able to take me out of the societal way of thinking. You know, being a martial artist. That's why I talk so much about being a martial artist. You know, I want to inspire other people to be a martial artist. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with fighting. It has everything to do with you as a person and how your growth. You know, the kind of seed that you plant is the flower that you're gonna grow, and the flower that I want to grow is a flower that helps people. I don't know how yet, but hopefully I somehow inspire those who will watch me.
Man, I wish you would have said that at the beginning because I got so many things I want to follow up on. But we'll get to my guy Jarrell Harris with some NBA talk, and I'll have you on again in the near future.
Definitely, man. Thank you.